Before we begin, a brief disclaimer. What you're about to hear is not a verdict and not a revelation. These are questions. Questions that official archaeology has yet to answer. We're not going to tell you what to think. We'll show you facts, we'll show you anomalies, and we'll propose a hypothesis that connects them. After that, you decide. 6 objects, 6 points on the map. Different cultures, different continents, different eras. But one thing in common. Each of them raises a question for which we have no convincing answer. Let's start with the oldest. Indonesia, the island of Java, 2023. A team of geologists is conducting standard drilling on the hill of Gunung Padang, a routine procedure carried out thousands of times a year around the world. At 9 meters depth, the drill stops. Not bedrock, not natural stone, worked stone showing signs of deliberate placement. The geologists drill deeper and deeper and find another layer, then another. In total, 4 separate construction horizons, one beneath the other, like floors of a building buried under millennia of earth. The dating is where the real problem begins. The top layer, approximately 3,000 years old. The second, the 8th millennium BCE. The third, the 12th millennium. The fourth, the lowest, according to some interpretations of radiocarbon analysis, up to 20,000 years old. Stop at that number. 20,000 years ago, the Earth was in an ice age. Sea levels were 120 meters lower than today. People lived in small nomadic groups. They hunted, they gathered food. They were just beginning to learn how to sew clothing from animal hides. And at that very moment, someone was deliberately building on this hill, not living here, not burying the dead, not making camp, just building, laying the foundation of a structure that would then be developed and improved for another 17,000 years. For comparison, from us to the Egyptian pyramids. Mike, less than 5,000 years. From the pyramids to the lowest layer of Gunung Padang. Another 15,000. That is a different world, a different era of humanity. Official science says, we don't know. Research is ongoing. Dating is being refined. That is an honest answer. But it doesn't close the question, it deepens it. Who was building? Why? And why did they keep coming back, like a developer releasing new versions of a product? That is the first question. Keep it in mind. It gets harder from here. India, Maharashtra, the Ellora cave complex. Among the 34 rock-cut temples here, there is one that fits no known logic. Kailasa. Official dating, 8th century CE. Official construction method, copper chisels, hammers, manual labor, 100 years of work, 200,000 tons of rock removed from a monolithic basalt cliff, top to bottom. Not assembled, carved out. Like a sculptor carving a figure from stone, but at a scale 9 times larger than the Parthenon. Here is what no one can satisfactorily explain. First, precision, the deviation of the inner courtyard floor from a perfect horizontal plane, less than 1 centimeter across 30 meters. This is not an architectural detail. This is a metrological result. Modern building standards for Class A construction allow deviations several times greater. How this was achieved with a copper chisel in the 8th century, unknown. Second, the cut profile. In the northeastern sector of the complex, there is a section of unworked cliff face directly adjacent to the carved surface. The boundary between them is sharp, clean, with none of the micro-fractures and chips characteristic of mechanical tooling. In materials science, this profile is described by the term ablation, the removal of material by a directed heat flow without mechanical contact. Industrial laser and plasma cutters produce exactly this cut morphology, the alternative hypothesis proposed by some researchers. Kailasa was not carved with tools. It was burned out by a directed energy beam, the source of which we have not identified. Official science does not confirm this, but it has not proposed a convincing alternative either. How sub-centimeter precision is achieved across several thousand square meters using hand tools remains an open question. That is the second question. Egypt, Saqqara, the underground necropolis of the Serapeum. Step underground. The corridor narrows. The ceiling 2.5 meters. The width less than 3. The granite around you is cold and perfectly smooth. Press your palm to it. The surface is like glass. No irregularities, no tool marks. At the end of each branch, a niche. In each niche, a sarcophagus. Black or grey Aswan granite. Weight 60 to 100 tons each. Picture 2 heavy battle tanks stacked on top of each other and polished to the finish of an optical mirror. Interior corners 90 degrees with deviations, by some measurements, of less than 1/10 of a millimeter. That is the tolerance of a precision CNC machine, not the result of hand-working hardstone. But the geometry of the sarcophagi is not the main mystery. The main mystery is the corridor. Less than 3 meters wide, 2 people barely pass each other. How do you deliver a 100-ton block to a place where 2 people can barely turn around? The official answer: on an inclined plane on wooden sledges using large numbers of workers. Try to draw this on paper, accounting for the actual geometry of the space, the angles of incline and the friction force vectors. It does not work out. The physics of acoustic levitation is a documented laboratory fact. Standing sound waves at resonant frequencies create zones of zero pressure in which objects are suspended without support. Today, this technology can lift objects weighing a few grams. The principle has no physical limitation on scale, only technological limitations on source power. Some researchers suggest the sarcophagi were moved acoustically. The perfect geometry of the interior surfaces and the quartz-bearing material with piezoelectric properties. This is a description of a resonance chamber, not a tomb. And one more fact that the official version explains poorly. All 24 sarcophagi are empty. No mummies, no traces of organic material, no burial goods. The lids shifted but not broken. If these are looted tombs, where are the signs of forced entry? Where are the signs of haste? The lids were opened carefully, as if someone simply took the contents and left. What was inside? Unknown. What happened to it? Unknown. That is the third question, and perhaps the most uncomfortable one of all. The Pacific Ocean, the Federated States of Micronesia, the island of Pohnpei. Nan Madol has stood in the lagoon off the coast for at least 9 centuries, possibly longer. Around 100 artificial islets built from basalt columns, with a combined weight of 800,000 tons. No roads on the island, no flat land, no quarries nearby. The basalt columns have a characteristic natural form, hexagonal prisms. They had to be extracted, transported by sea and placed in precise positions in the water. Exactly how? Unknown. Local legend describes it simply: the builders lifted the stones with sound. But set the legend aside for now. Look at the physics. The basalt of Pohnpei contains elevated concentrations of magnetite, a naturally magnetic mineral. Each column is a weak but permanent magnet. The channels between the islets are filled with seawater, a conductive liquid. Every 6 hours, the tides move that water through the magnetized basalt walls. A moving conductive liquid in a magnetic field generates an electric current. That is Faraday's law of electromagnetic induction. That is textbook physics, not a hypothesis. Now look at the geometry of the channels from above. The width is not random. The main arteries are wide. From them branch narrower passages. From those, narrower still. Central islets are connected by wide channels, peripheral ones by narrow ones. This is hierarchical topology. Exactly this architecture is used in electronic circuits to maximize energy efficiency and minimize transmission losses. Whether this is deliberate design or coincidence, unknown. But the fact remains, a complex built from magnetized stone, surrounded by a sea with a tidal cycle, with a topology that mirrors the principles of electrical power distribution. It has been operating for 9 centuries without maintenance. That is the fourth question. Turkey, Cappadocia, Derinkuyu, 18 floors underground. Depth, 85 meters. Capacity, yet by various estimates, 20 to 50,000 people. Stables, storerooms, wineries, schools, churches. Full autonomy for up to 6 months. 2 elements deserve particular attention. The first, the doors. Round stone discs weighing, up to 5 tons. They roll in specially carved grooves and seal the tunnels from the inside. The key word is inside. This is not a mechanism to stop an invader from without. This is a mechanism designed to withstand pressure from without. An army does not create excess atmospheric pressure in tunnels. What does is worth considering. The second, the ventilation. More than 50 shafts, some over 50 meters deep. The geometry of the shafts is non-standard. They have narrowings and widenings in a strict sequence. In modern engineering, this design is called a labyrinth filter. It traps fine particles and reduces penetration of ionizing radiation. This is not simply fresh air. This is a system for filtering out something specific. What exactly? The official version does not specify. The alternative hypothesis, Derinkuyu, was built as protection against a planetary-scale event that was accompanied by an atmosphere dangerous to breathe. What that event was? Unknown. But the level of engineering preparation suggests that the builders knew precisely what to expect. Japan. Yonaguni Island, 27 meters underwater, right angles, flat terraces, structures resembling staircases, roads and gates. The scientific status of the site remains contested. Some geologists consider the structures the result of natural fracturing of sandstone. Others argue for artificial or partially artificial origin. But here is a fact that is not in dispute. Sea levels in this region rose by 20 meters, or more approximately 10 to 12,000 years ago, at the end of the last ice age. If the Yonaguni structures are artificial, they went underwater at that moment, along with whoever built them. Here is where we stand. Gunung Padang. Construction 20,000 years ago that does not fit our timeline. Kailasa, precision and cut profile unexplained by tools known to the era. The Serapeum, sarcophagi that could not have been delivered by any known method and which were never used as tombs. Nan Madol, the topology of an energy network built from materials with the right electromagnetic properties. Derinkuyu, a bunker engineered against a threat we have not identified. Yonaguni, a submerged structure of unknown purpose. We are not saying aliens did this. We are saying something else. Either there existed a civilization whose capabilities we have severely underestimated, or our timeline of human history contains gaps far larger than is generally acknowledged. Or these objects are part of a system whose purpose we do not recognize, because we are looking at the details without seeing the whole. We gave these places names, put up signs, opened them to tourists, and there is something troubling in that, because the confidence that we have already explained everything closes off questions that have not even been properly asked yet. These structures stand. Some of them are still physically active. Nan Madol still interacts with the tides. The Serapeum still carries the same acoustics. Gunung Padang has still not been excavated to its base. Derinkuyu is empty and structurally intact. We don't know who built this. We don't know why. And we honestly don't know whether the construction is finished. If these questions interest you, subscribe. Leave a comment. Which of these 6 structures do you think most needs new scientific investigation? And why? The most interesting answers will be featured in the next episode.